The one thing I sort of wanted to get a sense of, because I said this sort of as my teaser, in my experience of all kind of the environmental jobs, conservation is the hardest one. And Conservation International, it's been around for so long, and you've probably done as much work globally as almost any organization I know. How have you seen? What are you seeing on the front, like on conservation? I know, like it's amazing. I use the term megalynchist. I remember when E.O. Wilson wrote Half Earth, and I was like, oh shit, he said it out loud. He told them what we all know, but oh my god. And now to the fact that like the Half Earth fits the UN goals, fits climate change goals. So how have you seen conservation? And on the front lines, when you go out into the world and raise money for your organization, raise money for a project, what's the experience? How has it changed over the past 5 years, 10 years since you started doing this work? Just curious about that.
When I started doing it, it was a hobby. It was a niche. It was something that you did, and people who, after they had made a certain amount of money, could afford to then kind of dabble in it or support it because it was a nice thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's genuinely how I saw my life. And I did it because I was passionate about it, not because I truly thought I could change the world. And here's why, because the dirty secret I was carrying was that I never could see a solution that was big enough that could actually tackle the challenge in front of us at scale. And I think even without climate change, I think we would have ended up with massive biodiversity extinction, and loss of life on Earth, in a different way. We would have gone down the path in a different way. In a weird way, because climate change came along and we started becoming aware of it, and it's so quantifiable, and you could actually put a number around it, and you could put a threshold around it, and you can say, these are the planetary boundaries that we can't exceed. It actually gives us some framework to actually kind of motivate to a goal. Right? If you don't know you're going to get to the top of the mountain, I don't think people would be climbing. I just don't think. I imagine if mountains didn't have tops, would people still climb? And I just don't think they would. So that's what kind of a weird sort of psychological sort of thing in my brain saying, like, this gives me put everything into a frame. And I'll tell you the other thing, so the other thing is that, so younger people are getting involved. They're way more impatient for change. I'm not alone in the room. I mean, you think you're lonely in a boardroom? Jesus Christ, how do you think I feel? How many people from the global south do you see invited to Davos, right? I mean, just like big things that now I don't feel alone anymore. I also find that companies can often hire people way smarter than me. You cannot believe the access that I now get to people in industry, to folks like you guys, to, amazing people want to talk to me about this thing that I always thought was my stamp collection hobby on the side. So that is incredibly empowering. I almost feel like I have all this, amazing talent at my fingertips. I just need to figure out a way to utilize it better. And the final thing I'd say is we are no longer capital constrained. That's an amazing thing. So it's no longer about money. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that people give us gifts, and I'm deeply grateful for every cent, every dollar that we get. But the reason we're not scaling is not just because we don't have money. It's that's a small problem compared to the bigger problem. It's not a capital constraint thing anymore. It's almost a supply constraint problem now. We have way more demand than supply. Imagine that. We have way more demand for solutions than we have supply.
That's a cool way of
so
thinking about it.
Carbon projects, for example, like the thing I told you about Kenya, if I had 20 of them, I could get them all done instantly right now. Right now, I have customers ready to go do it.
So the bottleneck is actually at the level of entrepreneurs, at the level of innovation, at the level of creation.
And policy. So don't forget policy. We're not talking a bit about this. So the reason policy becomes important with something like climate or biodiversity is that if governments don't have clarity about policy, then investments won't come in because it's just too risky. And, you could just change the rules overnight. So the reason why we do our carbon project in Kenya and in Colombia or in Peru is because they have clarified the rules under which you can engage. And when it comes to that kind of global policy, frankly, I think the U.S. has really been a bit of a laggard. We haven't been clear about the value of nature and how we would incorporate it into policy.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.